morning. We're here for Creative Mornings' 9th birthday to talk about corruption with Emmanuel LeGrair.
Hello.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good. I think I prepared well enough, and I'm excited to kind of share my thoughts on how to get through some corruption. And yeah.
I think it's something we need.
Yes, very much so.
Let's get started. The time has finally come to talk about corruption, to welcome our beautiful friend, Emmanuel LeGrair, to the stage to share with us. And I'm going to pass it off to him. There's nothing else I can do to introduce what I know is going to be amazing already. So, your little pointer.
Perfect. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I don't like that picture, but okay. Just playing. So I'm going to be talking about corruption this morning, and I was so excited when Christy asked me to come and speak this morning. I've been here a couple times, and I helped Simone Wilder with her talk, and I had a great time doing it, and so I wanted to definitely share. And she gave me the list of the year's themes. You know, corruption stood out to me because I was like, oh, that's normal. You should talk about corruption when it comes to creativity in the arts and things like that. And so by normal, I mean not normal at all. And so I wanted to jump on it, and so I decided to do that one. So I'll share my perspective this morning. I want to give a few shout outs before we start. The photos that you see were taken by Daniel Meeks. He is an independent photographer, so if you have needs, hit him up. He's awesome. He did some test shots for me, and I thought the juxtaposition, if you will, kind of fit today's theme, so I decided to use those. And Simone did the lettering for me. She did you'll have corruption is key stickers over there, and she did that letter type font for me. So I'd like to thank them, my friends, for helping me out this morning. So we'll get that shout out. All right, we'll jump into it. All right, so when I started thinking about corruption, a couple things came to mind. I like to call myself a backdoor etymologist, if you will. So I love figuring out, you know, where words come from, the root words, where they originated from, why they're used in that context, and all those sorts of things. And as I started looking up the definition of corruption, I came across these set of words, if you will. So to destroy, to spoil, to break, tear, contaminate, violate, to putrefy, which I found was interesting, and to decay. But with the common theme that I found in all these words and all the definitions that I read as well was there was a process of moving from good to bad. You know, so it doesn't start out as corrupt. You know, it moves from good to bad, whole to broken, nourishing to neglectful. There's a movement that takes place. And so I was like, wow, as I was thinking about it and what I was going to talk about, I'm like, how can I make this work? What does this mean? And so that's where my little arrow friend down there comes from. But yeah, so when we think about corruption, we often think about systems, right? And we all know this week has been an interesting time in the lives of Nashvillians when we think about corruption, we think about systems, and we think about external factors that make it hard for us to live our lives and make it hard for us to relate to others in a clear and concise and even friendly way many times. And so as I started thinking about that, I was like, you know, those systems are going to be around us all the time. They've been around in America for many, 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 many years, and they're going to be here. But how can I talk about this in a way that's germane to me, but also I feel like can help this audience as well? So before I move, Zuko here, anyone a Avatar The Last Airbender fan? Absolutely. Absolutely. My best friends, I watch this show all of the time. And Zuko is, the character development in the show is top tier. And so Zuko is a character in the show who has a lot of external forces, corruption around him, and he has to make choices constantly. I mean, to give a little backstory, he's a royal member of this family in this cartoon, and his dad is the king, and his dad is very evil, and his sister is very evil. His mom is very good, his grandfather is very good. So he has these external factors that make him choose between a righteous path and a corrupt path. And so if you ever get a chance to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, you should definitely watch it. But he kind of, in my mind, gave me the real life definition of external systems corruption, if you will. And so as I progress through this presentation or this conversation or talk, you'll see lots of memes, lots of cartoons, because I'm a big fan of all that stuff. So please, if it resonates with you, I hope you laugh and have a good time. But the reality of the situation is the corruption that you're experiencing self-inflicted or truly out of your control? So in that, sometimes the corruption that we experience is external for sure, and I don't want to diminish the fact that that is there. It is happening, it's real, we feel it, but that's not what I want to talk about today, because it's going to be there for our entire lives, but the internal corruption that we feel sometimes can be a little more self-inflicting, a little more dangerous, if you will. So in this epic battle, as you see, I'm also a Harry Potter movie fan. I've not read the books. Movie fan. Harry has a deep internal conflict in this movie. He has part of Tom Riddle, Voldemort, he who shall not be named, inside of him, and he has to always choose to go right rather than to go left, if you will. So again, is a corruption that you experience self-inflicted, or is it not? Can you truly fight external powers if the inner isn't correct first? And so how can I project and how can I help systems around me if what I'm fighting internally is not right? That just doesn't make sense to me. So those are some of the questions that I'll be answering and hopefully sharing with you all today. And if y'all have questions, I kind of like questions in the meantime. So if you have them, please ask me. Raise your hand. We'll discuss it as we progress. All right. So I'll start with a little bit of my story as well. So I was born in Akron, Ohio, one of the best cities on earth. I love it. I will never move there back until I have to, but I love it. It's a great city, home of LeBron James, the rubber capital of the world. Goodyear, Bridgestone, all those companies are based there. It's a great time. So my upbringing was pretty normal. That is my nuclear family. That's little me here, always with the attitudinal face on my face, But those are my two brothers, my dad and my mom. And I had a normal upbringing. My parents were very supportive of everything that we got into. We started singing at an early age. That was kind of our foray into the creativeness, if you will. So started singing in church. My dad was a pastor. So we were made to sing and do all the things in church, like I'm sure many of us have experienced in our past lives. But had a great time, went to performing arts high school, middle school, very supportive environment of what we wanted to do. And then I went on to attend the University of Akron. And that's where I kind of started just moving through life. I didn't really make any hardcore decisions for myself. I just kind of let things happen, if you will. So it was just, my father worked at the university at that time, so tuition was free. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go. My parents were like, what's your major gonna be? I'm just like, we'll do business, It just kind of happened. I didn't really take any efforts or steps toward creating the life that I wanted to lead, because I really honestly didn't know, but at the same time, it was just happening and easy to do. So what does one do after they go to college for business? They become a teacher, and that's what I did. And so actually I went on to get on the substitute teacher list at a local private school, and the math teacher quit a week before school started, and I interviewed for a position and ended up getting it. And so I became a middle school. That's literally, not literally me, but that's literally how I looked in the classroom. My kids would make fun of my clothes all the time. But I taught middle school math for 5 years, and it was a great time. I had a really good time there. But even there, just a little backstory, the school that I taught at was owned by the church I attended. And so I saw some things that I just wasn't happy with. No one was stealing money, nothing super egregious or crazy. I just saw things that I wasn't happy with, some systems that didn't make me excited to come to work every day, some interactions I wasn't thrilled with. And so I started experiencing some internal corruption. I started becoming bitter. I started internalizing things, and I couldn't bring my whole self and affect those children like I wanted to because I was bitter. I was angry at the systems around me. I wasn't prepared to do anything to change them, and I was just upset all the time. And so the one bright spot that I had during this phase of my life was we did a lot of singing. My brothers and I, who were pictured in there, in that picture, did a lot of singing and a lot of connecting creatively in the community. And so I was able to, kind of the top that I got there, I was able to perform in a main stage production of Porgy and Bess. It was an opera. It is an opera. And I auditioned and got the role of Sport and Life, who was the drug dealer of the show. It was very good. It was more of a tragedy, I like to think the show was, but written by the Gershwins, and just an amazing experience. It was a full orchestra. They flew in some stars to be in this show, and it was like a main stage production, and it was like huge in our community. And so I got an opportunity to do that, but still it was great. But I was like, I just want something more, and so again, I was just very bitter, very upset. And so it was time for me to leave and chart my own path. And so from that point, I experienced a little corruption. So like one of my favorite memes here, this was more of an internal thing at this point. So I mean, yes, the systems were there that I wasn't happy with, but I was upset. And so it clouded everything that I did. So I had to do what I needed to do to take care of myself so that I could take care of others. So like I said, this will be filled with memes and everything. This is one of my favorite ones. I send this Kermit meme to so many people. Mostly in reference when they tell me, should I buy this? I just send that. I'm like, you're always gonna get a yes from me when it comes to shopping and buying something else. That's just how I work. So that's just how it works. So yes. So next, a bit of a pivot happened. So I came to Vanderbilt University. I applied to 2 grad schools, and I said, hey, if I'm going to school, I'm going to school. And so I got into Vanderbilt University and had a great time there. I finished my master's in 2015. In leadership and organizational performance at the Peabody School. It was a great program, had its ups and downs, but I had a great time. It changed me as an individual. And then I kind of jumped into the job market. Honestly, I was thinking when I finished grad school, I just knew like having Vanderbilt on my resume was gonna be like, oh, everybody's gonna hire you, They're gonna wanna interview you, they're gonna wanna talk to you, they're gonna, come in. It didn't happen. Didn't happen. And to some extent, I think that was a bit of a corrupt system as well. I remember speaking to my graduate advisor, who was the head of my program at the time, and she said she would have me apply for jobs that she knew people at, like, hey, I know a person at this organization. We've hired people from our program. They've hired people from our program before. You should apply. So I would apply. She'd look at my resume. She'd look at my cover letter, and no interview. And I would email her, and it's like, hey, I haven't heard anything. You're kidding. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kidding. Yeah, I don't want the money. I don't want a job, And so, and what was frustrating at the time was like I was one of the older people in my graduate program, and I had a lot of experience. And so I saw my classmates getting these gigs. I saw my classmates getting these jobs. I saw my classmates, making this ton of money out of grad school. At the time when I applied, it was the #1 school of education in the country, which is where I got my master's from. And so I had all these friends who were doing all these great things. I'm going to Seattle, I'm moving to London, I'm moving to, Korea and Japan. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I ended up at a nonprofit here in Nashville. So it wasn't horrible, but I told my teacher, my graduate advisor, what I was making. She was like, oh, okay, well. And then when I found out what my classmates were making, like an average, I'm like, who in the world is doing this? How are you getting this? But I got my first job at a nonprofit here in the city, and it was, you see the little sign here, it was very toxic for me. The job itself was great. The organization, what they stood for was great, but the culture was very toxic. And I tried to stay optimistic because I just made this big change in my life. I'm in this new city. I know literally no one. except some people that I think at that point I started singing in my church choir, and I knew about 20 people. She's the member of the church choir. And so, so I started singing, and I knew like 20 people in the choir. I knew no one else in the city. All my friends from grad school, at this point, most of them had moved away. So I'm trying to figure out what's happening. And so I'm trying to stay optimistic. And, I'm talking to my mom, who's a business leader and nonprofit leader back home. And I'm giving her the rundown of what's happening at work. And I got that job in August. And in March, she was like, I don't know why you didn't quit at Christmas. And I'm like, girl, what? I was like, I don't have another job to sustain it. She said, you can find another job. You need to leave that job. That's not going to get any better. So that happened. And then next job, I did some consulting. And the firm that actually hired me into the nonprofit recruited me to work with them after they found out I left the nonprofit. And so it turns out they didn't have enough jobs to sustain my being there. So I had to leave. And so then I got a part-time job at a retail store, which was just to kind of pass my time. Within a year, I ended up being the store director, which was fine. I had a good time there. But again, these instances were very toxic for me. And so I'm trying my best to stay optimistic. And my parents, they're telling me to quit these jobs. And I'm just like, no, you told me I have to stay at this job for a year. And I'm going to stay for the year. And I'm going to make it work. And it's fun. They're like, no, you're just not going to get any better. And so guess what happened next? Corruption. So in that, in these instances, I view that as kind of some external corruption. So like Charlie Brown has done his best to kick this ball, and Lucy takes it away every time. And he's optimistic every time. He wants to, foolishly, but every time, he wants to kick this ball. He wants to have a good time with his friends, and Lucy snatches it away from him every time. And so that's kind of how I felt in the moment. It's like I've had this great, turnaround in my life. I studied, I paid all this money to study and did all these things to improve myself, and it's still not happening. So how do I go about and fight these systems? And I'm trying to stay optimistic and do all those sorts of things, but the external corruption was too much. And so in that, when those two bits of corruption, I think, hit my life, more so this one than the last one, it got messed up. But this is called the Great Pivot. And so it kind of, after that last job, I kind of started pivoting into and taking more control of what I wanted to do. And so that's kind of where you all know me at to this day, those kind of backgrounds, so getting up to present day. So I started doing some blogging things. I started singing. I started creating connections, planning events. And I just wanted increased exposure. Like, I knew Nashville was growing, and I wanted to do things that were exciting to me, that were connecting with other people, that were going to get me in some circles that I had never previously known. So here are just some photos of things that I've done in the past. So I actually sang background for Nelly at a show at TPAC, which was a lot of fun. This was kind of my first blogging pick, if you will. This is a photo from a partnership I did with Delta Airlines some years ago. This was a bag that I designed in collaboration with Oil and Lumber, who I'm wearing this morning. And some photo shoots that I've done, some events, and just creating some content. So just a little background of some things that I've done in the past. But that corruption spurred me on to create the world that I didn't see. I figured it wasn't going to happen any other way. So anything that I wanted to see happen, I needed to do it. So I started doing it. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I employed, and I used to employ lightly because they did not get paid, but I employed friends, just being honest, friends of mine to help take pictures and, help me figure out what a website functioning does and how to set it up and all that other stuff. And so I kind of went all in. I'm like, at this point, I have nothing else to lose. I got these terrible jobs, this system that won't hire me for, I think I know why they won't hire me, but there's no way I can get around that, and so now, and I made tons of mistakes, tons of mistakes. But what this allowed me to do was to learn about some things about myself that I never would have known. And it spurred me on to say, what is creative? I always thought a creative was someone who, lived their life 24/7 in creativity. I'm a painter. I live in a studio. I sell my artwork, and I do this. And so it allowed me to define what I was as a creative, because I never really saw myself as a creative, honestly. I saw myself as someone who was kind of businessy and liked pretty stuff, if that makes sense. And so it allowed me to define what a creative was in my own terms and create what that picture looked like to everybody else. And so that it was freeing for me in that. And so it allowed me to know that no one knows anything. Like literally everyone is figuring everything out. I'm in a National Emerging Leaders right now, and one of the leaders' big monikers is imposter syndrome is not real because no one knows what they're doing. And so, and when she said that, I'm like, that is true. Like everyone I talk to and just like, oh yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. I got to hire a consultant. I got to figure this out. And I'm just trying to take some pictures and be cool, And so it allowed me to understand that others can do what it too, because nothing that I do is proprietary. I don't do anything that I have a patent on. I don't do anything that I invented. I'm not a cook that I make recipes. I wish I was, but I'm not. And so others can do it too. So as long as you are excited about it, as long as you're passionate about it, take it on and do it as well. The challenge is worth it. It is hard. It is hard to kind of go after what you want to do. And in my case, coming to a new city and creating a pathway for myself and creating a name for myself was very difficult, and to me, it's worth it because I get to engage with folks like you, because I get to engage in programs like I'm in right now. I've had a good time. And it allowed me to know that I can do what I can. I can't do everything, but I can do what I can do. My pastor always says, everybody can't do everything, but everybody can do something. So that was something that stuck out to me. And nothing is wasted. One thing that I had beat myself up about a lot was the zigzagginess of my resume. I started someplace, business to teacher to grad school, which kind of made sense because I got a master's in education, but then I went to nonprofit, but then I went to consulting, I went to retail, and now I'm in community engagement for a printing and publishing company, which is all good. But every experience that I've had in the past kind of has lent itself to what I'm doing creatively and lent itself to what I'm doing even in my full-time job as well. So don't feel bad about what you have done in the past. It all works together for sure. So can one navigate in and through corruption? As you guys can see, who can name all 4 maps from here? Who can name all 4? Anyone? We got the Dora, right? We got Dora. Avatar, The Last Airbender. What's this? Marauders map from Harry Potter and nope. Westeros, yes. Game of Thrones. Yes, so how can one navigate in and through corruption? So I think an easy way, one of the ways you can do that is to kind of create a map or a chart or a path for yourself. And so in that, what I have over the past several years kind of decided that what I was going to do, anything that I was involved in, any job that I took or anything, no matter what industry, any opportunity that I took, these are my guiding principles for me. As I do it, I want to be as detailed as possible because I don't want to differentiate myself in terms of details. People don't you notice details, but people don't think about them. Secondly, I want to be refined. That means if I do something one way, the next time I want it to be better. And the next time I want it to be better. And if what I'm involved in can't allow for that, I got to step out. That's just me. I'm not doing it. If you want to stay here, that's fine. I love you. What is that? You like it, I love it. You want to stay here and be at a B level, that's fine. But I want to be B plus, and I want to be A minus, and then I want to be A, and then I want to be A plus, and then I want to be a 5.0, whatever you say. That's what I want to do. I want to be intentional about what I'm doing. So I want to be in the spaces that I'm supposed to be in. I don't want to just willy-nilly things just because they're available, just because it's cool, because other people are doing it, because that's not what's best for me. I want to be consistent. I want every time you see me, I want you to know, almost like a brand, I want you to know this is what you're going to get. And in your interactions with me, in the events that you come to me, in the events that I do that you come to, in the content that I produce, in the way I work on my job, in the way I send you emails, in the way I discuss things with you, in the way I text you, I want to be consistent in everything that I do. And lastly, I want to be focused. I want to be laser focused on what the ultimate goal is. So if I'm entering in in a contract with you or doing something with you, I want to know what the end result is. Again, I just feel like you can navigate through corruption. It's possible. The systems externally are always going to be there, but how can I navigate? This is what I've done as I created a map for myself. Next, what motivates me? And I put this in here because I've been asked a lot of times to share kind of what motivates me. So I put this in here to kind of, as we're nearing the end, kind of bring things to light. So community motivates me. I created community because that's what motivates me. You know, I found myself in spaces where I could connect others, where I could do things like this, where I could be with other people of like mind because it motivates me. Seeing others win is a big thing for me. When I see other people operating in what they're supposed to be doing and doing it well, I'm excited. Like, I'm pumped for you. Like, I'm going to cheer you on. I may not be able to do it monetarily. I may not be able to do it, you know, at a large platform, but I'm definitely cheering you on. Sense making, this is a term that I learned in graduate school. It is the act of being in communication with folks and learning about their story, and their story helps you make sense of your story. And so that is huge for me. So anytime I connect with someone, I get coffee with people a lot. I'm like, tell me about what you're doing, about your story, about, you know, all these sorts of things, because it helps me not feel so bad about what I got going on. Next is proxy creativity. I kind of made that up. Being just in the space where people are being creative. I'm inspired by other folks doing what they're supposed to be doing. Kind of along the same lines, innovation, and then value. You know, I love when folks can not only make something pretty, but make it worth the while of being pretty. You know, when I started blogging and whatnot, I didn't want to just put myself up on the internet just to say I had a cool outfit, but how can I help you create a better outfit for yourself or a better outlook for yourself? So when I blogged and did a lot of things, a lot of it was outfit based, but I also had some personal stories about stuff I was feeling or going through that I thought could help my audience as well. And so I connected with them a whole lot through those sorts of instances. So that's what motivates me, and that's me on a daily basis, trying to find motivation right now. And then where I still struggle, who can name this little guy here? Almost. His name is Morpeko. He's a Pokemon. I like Pokemon too. So, again, much of things that I like and enjoy that you probably find weird. But where I still struggle, and so I think these are some ways that self or internal corruption can manifest, and that's where I struggle many times. And so many times I struggle with discipline. You know, it's doing what you're supposed to be doing no matter how you feel. You know, if that's creating, if that is networking, if that is, networking, heavenly, whatever that is, do it no matter how you feel. So I still struggle with that sometimes. I struggle with comparison. Like I said, I talked about that. The National Emerging Leaders leader, her name is Rachel Moore Beard. She's excellent. She's amazing. But I talk about comparison. You know, she said that quote to me, and I'm like, wow, you're correct. Imposter syndrome does not exist. And then fear. I get scared to create, to do, to push forward about things all the time. And then perfectionism, that is probably my biggest flaw, if you will. I want everything to be so good, I won't even start until I know it's going to be good sometimes. And so that's what hurts me. So the reason why I have this little guy here, this is the same Pokemon. So he's happy-go-lucky here, but when he gets hungry or hangry, he turns into that guy. And so though everything looks great, there's still a side of you that sometimes people don't see, or things that are triggering it. And so you have to know what your triggers are, and if you want to get through what you're supposed to get through. So lastly, in the last slide here, some parting words here. How do you get through corruption? Corrupt systems are going to be there for the rest of your life. They just are. We live in America. It happens. It was built on a corrupt system. So how do you expect it not to be corrupt for many, many years to come? So 1, draw your map. What are your guiding principles? And it can be values and all that other stuff, you know, mission statements, all those are good. But draw your map, whatever it is for you, that I can get through this internal corruption or even external corruption. How am I going to get through? A train can get best can best traction when it's on the tracks. If you stay on your tracks, I mean, as soon as them tracks come away from that train, it's on the ground. But if it's on those tracks, which seem narrow, but if it's on those tracks, you can go from New York to Chicago, to Dallas, to Nashville, to LA. You can travel all across the country, but it's got to stay on the tracks. So those kind of what I view as a track. Draw your map. Secondly, find your happy place. What motivates you? Put yourself in those places where you're motivated to do the work, to network, to meet other people, to do whatever it is that you want to do. Find yourself in that place. Know your triggers and struggles. My triggers, my struggles, I just shared them with you. I know that I struggle with perfectionism, so I need to put myself and get people around me who can kind of help me combat that, or put systems in place for myself where I can move past that. And then also, it's not all bad. Like, it's just not. We are alive. We have, as the old people used to say, a reasonable portion of our health and strength. We are here and thriving and living to the best of our ability. It is not all bad. It is bad sometimes. It is. I hope that helped someone. I love to connect with you. This is my website, my Instagram, and my business Instagram, and then my email address. Please email me. Send me a message on my website. Get me on Instagram. I'm there way too much. I'm on those websites, on my Instagram way too much. But I hope that helped this morning. I'd love to connect with you. Have any questions? I'll be happy to answer for them.
Do we have any questions? All right.
So the giveaway today says corruption is key, right? So I'm curious why you think corruption is key and sort of what your thoughts are on, corruption has levels, obviously, right? You talked about internal and external, but I think there's also like good corruption, make good trouble, right? And then there's the corruption you talked about with the systems that this country is built on that were intended to be corrupt. So like what parts of that are key in your mind and why, and how do we use those as like almost a drive or a motivator,
When I thought about corruption and thought what I was going to talk about this morning, I kind of viewed it as another random backstory. And I was in middle school. I was in Schoolhouse Rock Live, and so we sang a lot of these songs that were on TV for many, many years. And one of the songs started with necessity, the mother necessity, where would we be? The necessity, I done lost it already, Lord help. Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So I kind of think about it in that way so the corruption kind of is in my life, corruption has been the catalyst to help me do the things that I wanted to do. So when I was in Akron, it was the internal corruption. I was bitter. I knew I had to make a change. So I made a change and went to school and left the city. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but I did that change. But when I was here in Nashville, the corrupt systems around me weren't allowing me to do or live the life that I wanted to do. So I had to create it on my own. So I'll probably say that would be the biggest thing for me. It's just the necessity of invention, if you will. So hope that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
So I have a question. When you are in that dark place or when you're feeling that sense of self-corruption, do you have any advice for people who are in that situation, how to get out of it? Like, what do you do to bring yourself up out of that place of corruption?
Mm-hmm. Firstly, don't go to the grocery store because that was my problem. Some of my comfort food is like candy. I have a Sour Patch pin on today because it's my favorite candy, so don't do that. But that was kind of like what motivates me. Am getting around the community of people that I love, that I can trust to show me those things and tell me, hey, this is what's happening. This is what we're seeing. You're not well. You need to take some time off to do yourself. I'm an introvert, so I prefer to rebuild at home by myself, if you will. So whatever that is for you. I know that even if I'm in a dark place, I know in the back of my mind, I love traveling. That's just as an example. So do I need to take a day trip to Chattanooga to kind of refuel and to get things back into perspective? I know in the back of my mind, I love to cook, so am I going to just go to the store and, I'm going to whip up a pan of lasagna? I don't know. But whatever that is for you, I think it's important for you to, while you're well, figure out what those things that kind of help and motivate you. So then when you're in that dark place, I can look at that list and say, oh, I need to go talk to this person. I can go do these things that make me happy. So that is what helped me. And I was in therapy as well. So I'm not going to lie like it was all an internal thing for me. So therapy can help as well. My family helped a great deal as well. My friends helped a great deal. So all those sorts of things. Whatever that is for you, I think you need to figure it out while you're well. And so then when the trigger hits, I know how to navigate through that. Thank you.